Welcome to day 10 of becoming a solutions architect in 60 days.
Today we are going to be launching two EC2 instances. That is a Linux-based instance and a Windows-based instance. By the end of this lesson, we will understand how to select an instance type, configure networking, security settings, and connect to both Linux and Windows instances using SSH, Secure Shell, and RDP, that is a remote desktop protocol. This lesson is a hands-on and will guide you through to every step, explaining the why behind each actions so that you can build confidence in managing AWS instances. So, understanding the basics, what happens when you launch an EC2 instance? Launching an EC2 instance means creating a virtual machine in the AWS cloud. You get to choose the instance type, how much CPU, RAM, and storage it has. The Amazon machine image, that's the AMI, which operating system it runs. The network settings, does it have an IP, public or private IP address? The security settings, who can connect to the instance? The storage settings, how much disk space it gets. Okay, so before we start launching our instances, let's break down each key component so you understand what you are configuring. So step 1, we will log onto the AWS console and navigate to EC2. So first, we are launching a Linux-based EC2 instance. You click on Launch Instance in the EC2 dashboard. You give your instance a name. Example, Linux Server. You scroll down to Applications and OS Images. That is AMI. By default, AWS select Amazon Linux 2023, which is optimized for AWS and comes with the AWS CLI pre-installed. If needed, you can click Browse More AMIs to choose a different operating system, such as Ubuntu or Red Hat. AWS provide instance types, which determines the compute power of the virtual machines. For this lesson, we will use the T2 micro instance, which is under the free tier eligible, no cost for 750 hours per month, and has 1 vCPU and 1 GB RAM, which is enough for basic applications. So ensure that the T2 micro is selected and then click next. If you already have a key pair, select it from the drop down. If not, click create key pair. Choose your RSA as the key type and name it something like my Linux key pair. Click download key pair. AWS will automatically generate a key pair file, and this is a private key. Important notice, store this securely. If you lose it, you won't be able to access your EC2 instance. So your EC2 instance must be placed inside the VPC virtual private cloud and assigned a subnet and security groups. Under the network settings, leave default VPC selected. Ensure auto-assign public IP is enabled. This will allow internet access. Click Edit Security Groups and create a new security group called Web Access. Add the following inbound rules. SSH to open port 22, which allows secure access to Linux instance, and then HTTP port 80, which allows web traffic. It's useful if you are hosting a website. Now, keep the default 8 GB. That's for general purpose SSD. If you need more space, increase the sizes. Maybe 20 GB for larger applications. Now that everything is configured, review the settings and click Launch Instance. Your instance will take a minute or two to start. Click View All Instances to see its status. Once the status changes to running, your Linux EC2 instance is ready. Now, how do you access your Linux EC2 instance on the internet? Open a terminal, mark All Linux or the command prompt on Windows and navigate to the directory where your key pair file is stored. Use the following SSH command. which is displayed on the screen, you should replace the public IP with the public IP address of your instance found in the EC2 console. If connected successfully, you are now inside your AWS EC2 Linux server. So the process is similar to launching a Linux instance with a few key differences. Here you click on Launch Instance again and name it Windows Server. In the AMI selection, choose Microsoft Windows Server 2022 base. Select the T2 micro instance type. Ensure you use the same key pair as before. This is required to decrypt the Windows password. Under security groups, edit web access and add RDP port 3389 to allow remote desktop access. Now, enter the public IP address and log in using the decrypted password. You should now have your fully running Windows instance on AWS. You have successfully launched a Linux and Windows EC2 instance, configured networking and security groups, connected to Linux using SSH and Windows using RDP. This is just the beginning of EC2. In the next lesson, we will deploy a web application on EC2, set up a load balancing and auto-scaling, explore cost optimization techniques. We are going to learn how to manage our running instances. Once you are done working with your EC2 instance, you can shut it down to avoid extra charges. So we are going to be doing two things. We are going to be stopping an EC2 instance to preserve our data, and two, we are going to be terminating an EC2 instance permanently to delete the data. First, we are going to stop our instances. So we go to the AWS Management Console and locate our instances. We select the instances in the console, click on the instance state, and then click Stop Instances. At the moment, you can see on the console that it is stopping, and the moment it stops, you will see it written on it as well. When you want to terminate an EC2 instances, you do the same step by selecting the instance. You click on the instance state and click on Terminate Instance. It will notify you on the console for you to know the state it is in, whether it is terminating or it has been terminated. Now, AWS also provides an additional EC2 administration options and the actions in the EC2 console. One is to monitor and troubleshoot. When you click on it, here you can view your instance logs and metrics. You can change the instance types through here by upgrading the CPU or the RAM. You can also create AMI from it by taking a snapshot for backup and disaster recovery. You can also attach an IAM rule to assign a permission to allow EC2 to interact with AWS services securely.